Oh, there's a goal! It bounces.
Oh, at least I thought he was gonna until he blew it.
Welcome to the playoff push. This season's been incredibly compact. And just because the Olympics are in the rearview mirror, don't think things have slowed down at all. Oh no! The only thing that was really slow was deadline day, where a coffee roll became a story for a bit. The end of double retention and in-season LTIR brought trades to a near standstill as we sat on our asses and waited. And waited, and waited some more. In the end, our only acquisition is SeatGeek, the sponsor of this video. I know a broken record, but play with me for a second. This wonderful app sifts through every ticket available to find me my perfect match to any event or concert of my choosing. Over 70,000 of them, so I'm not short of options. SeatGeek sorts all available tickets from red to green on a 1 to 10 scale. It gives me a sneak peek from where I'll be sitting, and all tickets on the app are backed by their buyer guarantee. Same goes for the code TREE. Use it in the link below to save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek is my right hand going into the playoffs, and it should be for you as well. Speaking of that, it's time to weed out the contenders and pretenders. Though considering everything, that's most definitely coming down to the final days. We start off with the house that evil built. An Atlantic that's turned on its damn head. Do you know why that is, kids? It's now commanded by the Sabres. As was foretold in the book of Revelations, Buffalo is leading their division. And as also told in those verses, they buy at the deadline. Well, they would have done more if Colton Parayko agreed to waive his no-trade clause. Then again, with the return they were going to send back, it might have been for the best. Instead, they looked to Winnipeg for their wares. Tanner Pearson and the endless third-pairing defenders, including one notorious for being unable to defend. But Tree Logan Stanley is tall and shit. He somehow has 9 goals this year. That makes up for his reputation. Overall, still a pretty good place to be in. Still hard to fathom the Sabres being good. After them is Tampa Bay. They've been through some shit this year with all their injuries, yet they thrive in the chaos. Although with their record since the Olympic break, and Victor Hedman still shaking off the rust, and after that barn burner against Buffalo, yeah. Time to call in an old friend in Corey Perry. Kind of reunion the world needs. Return to the Stanley Cup Finals is all but guaranteed. They may lose, but it doesn't matter. It might be because they're trusting Jonas Johansson as backup netminder. It's 2026 and people are still willingly giving this guy an NHL paycheck. Jesus Christ. Next, we have the Red Wings, who had a bit of a weird quandary. That John Gibson fire run that thrust them into playoff contention? He's in the shop. Again. Same for Dylan Larkin. And Andrew Copp. Oh Lord, here we go again. The Yzer plan is close to tasting playoff nectars once again. And the time has come to buy. I just have a few questions. David Perron's a reunion of sorts that works as depth, sure, but Justin Falk? For that price tag? I get it, he's under contract for another year and still has value, but for a future first-round pick plus? Is getting out of the Justin Hole albatross that important? Oh well, just keep letting the youth thrive and pray John Gibson comes back to full form and you're good. You gonna stop collapsing in March? Can we just delete this month in Detroit? Those were the big players of the Atlantic. The rest of it were either a smattering of smaller moves or Toronto. The latter's landlord known as Boston didn't do all that much at the deadline. A few minor moves, but nothing to take them over the top. They're mainly banking on what they currently have taking a step forward. And that juicy first-round pick from Toronto. Ottawa, meanwhile, did a little switcheroo. Out goes David Perron. In comes a Milo addition in Warren Foegele. He hasn't done well in LA this year, but he's young enough to be able to bounce back. The Senators, on the contrary, have as of late. And I'm not just speaking of getting their first-round pick back. Maybe this momentum keeps up for them? It has to at least be better than Patrick Laine in Montreal. Rumors of him being traded were for naught, same as Montreal at the deadline. I figured they'd have tried for an extra goalie for the push, but I guess they trust their horses back there or something, I don't know. Florida was rumored to be selling what wasn't bolted down, but what went out the door? Only Jeff Petrie is a favor to him. They're gonna try to bring back AJ Greer and Officer Bob, but this season's pretty much out the window. All the injuries and deep runs burned them in the end. And the elements now include Brad Marchand. But the Panthers aren't the worst case scenario here. Not by a long shot. That would be the Maple Leafs. Cup contender, you say? Not with this shitty roster construction and team culture. It's actually damn good. For no one. They're done. They're just fucking done. Don't ask questions, just pray you win the draft lottery so you don't give Boston another elite player. Toronto's simply selling off what isn't bolted down or a core piece, minus OEM. While they did get a first-round pick for Nick Waugh, the rest is underwhelming last-minute sells like Bobby McMahon. Let's take this Scott Laughton, trade a first-round pick and prospects for him, and then magically transform it into a conditional third-round throwaway a year later. Genius asset management. I can only imagine how well the return will be for Brandon Carlo when the time comes. It's so bad we've got Tree Living himself shitting on his deadline performance to the press in an act of self-flagellation. Haven't seen a fan base this broken since, well, Boston. The Leafs are in worst-case scenario mode. They might have pissed away a window thanks to their own damn doing. And it's been years in the making. Okay, God, you win. How the fuck can this possibly get worse? Hell hath come in its form as a falling leaf in May. Good news, Metropolitan Division. It's still as much of a mosh pit as we once remembered. Carolina predictably still leads the charge, and they're as talented as ever. But they'll never be able to answer the questions about them until April and beyond. The time for buying has come to an end. There isn't really much they need. Nick Delorier's the only thing they've chosen for forward depth, and he didn't cost much. It's a strange spot for them, mostly due to praying Brandon Bussey maintains his excellent form. What the hell do you mean he's fallen off a cliff? In Freddie they trust? The Penguins are also in a strange spot. They're firmly in playoff contention, but center depth is being tested. Sid's still out with his injury during the Olympics, and he'll be out for a bit longer. And, oh, Gino, never fixed that temper issue of his. Real bad fucking time to get suspended, brother. As for the deadline, is that a second-round pick? Sure thing, Colorado. We'll take Sam Girard's contract off your hands for Brett Kulak. There's even a gigantic Elmer Soderblom as another project forward. Changes of scenery work, kids. Just ask Igor Chinikov. He was never gonna succeed in Columbus, stop asking. Still doesn't stop the Jackets from reviving their season from the dead. This calls for some surprise buying. Connor Garland's going to Ohio for a few draft picks. They just don't know about taking on the entirety of a 6-year contract starting next season as a 30-year-old. With the no movement clause for the first 3 years. I'm being overly skeptical. There's no way this backfires, right? Garland's a quality middle six forward that'll thrive on a contender. They're not gonna simply fall apart once again with everything clicking. Right? The island's rocking again. Matthew Schaefer's turned them into a powerhouse of sorts. That and Ilya Sorokin being quite possibly the best goalie in the world right now. There's only one goal for Matthew Darsh and company: getting back to the dance. With their reforged prowess, the time has come for additions in both the short and long-term future. Jonathan Drouin hasn't worked out here, and they need to shore up the center position. And this is with JT Pajot's extension in mind. Not just in terms of skill, but grit, leadership, and intangibles out the wazoo. That man is Brayden Schenn. Yes, a center in his mid-30s, with 2 years left on his hefty contract showing signs of serious decline. And they paid a first-round pick for him and more. Colorado's late first, but still. Maybe Schenn's the kind of guy Long Island needs to get back to the heights of the past. Certainly the kind of year to strike, to be fair. The Isles certainly aren't Washington. They've tried everything to get last season's magic back. Entertaining reunions and nostalgia bait alike, going through the motions of what made them great to return, but just wasn't meant to be. The Caps are a fringe contender, and the core is still transitioning. And that's just been hastened. The longtime hero of the team couldn't agree to terms on a new deal. And in the middle of the night, John Carlson was sent packing on a train to Anaheim. I'm legitimately stunned. This is an end-of-an-era type deal. Nick Dow going out is one thing, but Carlson? One of the best defenders of his generation. Hope he might go out missing a chance at a postseason. And he ain't exactly happy about the trades. Instead, they'll get their imitations in Timothy Liljegren and David Kampf. But all that matters right now are the fields. With Carlson gone, only Ovi and Tom Wilson remain from their cup team. Everything fades with time. Even if you don't want it to. It's an inevitability of life.
In a fantastical episode of All My Rangers, the hardened core faces more despair in the form of futility. A so-called retool calls for so-called departures. You say goodbye to a former gem of the program. A man who has been through thick and thin, but time had run out. Brennan Othman. He was as disappointing here as many Rangers picks have been. Did you expect Vinny Trocheck to be traded at peak value? Heavens no. Lord Drury heard that his kid had his own hockey team and wanted him to stay on for his development. That, or he refused to budge from his sky-high prices for him.
Seriously, why the fuck does Drury still have a job? This dude's the epitome of incompetent. Like the Metro, the Central is as much of a gauntlet as we remember. 3 groups at the top will likely be killing each other, and the only solution is to add to their rich arsenals. Likely to further kill each other. Dallas begins with what else? Another tall defenseman with extremely questionable analytics. Forget the nerds. Tyler Myers isn't what he was, but still offers some value to a playoff team. Plus, he's at half retention, is signed through next year, and doesn't cost all that much. Who gives a shit about a second-round pick when you're going all in? Speaking of that, Michael Bunting fills the Mason Marchment void that was forced by the cap. He will join the fold as well in their quest to finally break through. They'll likely have to overcome Minnesota if they want any chance of it. If you haven't heard, the Wild are quite tired of bowing out early. Guerin desires a deep run. The entire goddamn state does. The time has once again come to buy. Jeff Petrie is defensive depth. Nick Foligno reunited with his brother in his twilight. Bobby Brink is skilled, if undersized, middle six support. And Michael McCarron for a second-round pick? You see how much of a seller's market this was? That's the steep price of playing the game. And Bill Guerin knows it well. Colorado does too. With their wagon, they need to bolster more depth down the middle with an old friend or two. Long-term future be damned. Nick Waugh's a pretty solid playoff warrior. His time in Vegas proved that, but for a first-round pick plus? That's steep for what he is right now. Brett Kulak, another premium playoff warrior coming at the cost of Sam Girard's salary plus a second-rounder. Why the second-rounder? Cap space. Big game hunting. Nazem Kadri, welcome home. Flames ownership finally realized they needed to sell their biggest piece. The price Colorado paid was whatever's left of their futures pool. The reserves are gone. Everything is out on the battlefield for another push or two. Kadri may decline soon in his mid-30s with multiple years left on his deal, but it's about now. And now is when they need to strike. Their rivals certainly won't make it easy for them. The Utah Mammoth are a special case in the grand scheme of the Central. They're within the taste of the playoffs again, but to go further, they need more. And not just rentals. Calgary's having themselves a flaming fire sale. And Mackenzie Weegar's just what they need for their back end. And to get him and his analytical prowess, they play NHL on PS5 and spam second-round picks at them until they say yes. It would have been nice if it wasn't leaked to Twitter before Weegar agreed to waive his no-trade clause, but so be it. The reward is him in Utah for the next 5 seasons. At age 32. Yeah, the cap's going up, who gives a fuck? We're talking about the Pacific. It's a division. I'll give it that. About as chaotic as Edmonton is right now. The Oilers have thrown shit in the wall to solve their litany of issues, and next to nothing is stuck. As useless as Trent Frederick. Wait, I'm wrong, he scored another goal. It was probably on Tristan Jarry. All I'm gonna say is we Pens fans tried to warn the hell out of you about him. He was on waivers last year for a reason, Edmonton. Fighting his teammates in practice? That's new. At least you got out of the Mangiapane deal. Man, that one blew up in their face. Hopefully getting the best analytical pieces of the Blackhawks work out better for them. Stan Bowman's old home will work their magic. Jason Dickinson and Connor Murphy can't be worse than what they have, right? It has to wait their awful goaltending, right? But I'm pulling the panic button way too early. As long as Connor and Leon are doing their thing, and Leon's now out for the season! And that is the sound of all of Edmonton sinking into a tar pit. They can't just be LA. The Kings did add Artemi Panarin at a dirt cheap cost, but apparently they never read the fine print. The cost came in the health of their forward core. 3 men out for the season in less than a month. Core contributor during the Olympics. Ouch. Corey Perry Invitational's looking further and further from view. Goodbye, Corey. It was pretty weird seeing you as a King, but we won't forget you and Warren Fogle for about 5 minutes. They'd certainly like to forget Jim Hiller. How do you change your reputation as a head coach, Jim? Next question. Wait, they need forwards now. Just go get Scott Lawton for a pittance and you're good. Then Vegas. So a team's on the brink of chaos. They can't buy a save and have a ton of questions throughout the roster. Let's see what the clock says. Oh my, look at the time. It's Mark Stone's biannual trip to the shop for repairs. Hey, you did redeem your rewards card and got veterans Nick Dowd and Cole Smith for the bottom 6. Not a goalie or an extension for Eichel or Anderson, but it's something. Meanwhile, Anaheim can smell blood, but inconsistency is their vice. The Ducks need to net themselves a big fish and fast. Someone with cup experience. Someone who could lead them to... John Carlson? Don't get me wrong, I love the pickup, but Washington really let him go? Not even a pity move like Ryan Strome. Damn. Much better position than San Jose. It's kind of imploded. Playoff stars dimming for Mac and his merry men. The Sharks did extend keeper Sherwood long term, though. For a career year featuring an unsustainable shooting percentage, at least Seattle managed to secure Bobby McMahon before the final buzzer. It's still as much of a shit show as we remember. A bunch of teams come in, you hope one of them comes out unscathed. Keyword is hope. The rest of the NHL more or less sold or didn't do much whatsoever. Kind of there-ish, maybe. New Jersey was rumored to be trading Dougie Hamilton among others, but that never came to be. In fact, they did nothing at the deadline, probably due to their litany of no-trade clauses. Philadelphia at least did things. They acquired David Jiricek as an extremely buy-low candidate for excess goods. And they sold a few other things as well. Just don't expect that for Rasmus Ristolainen. Rumors of him going back to Buffalo didn't come true. Same as the Flyers being relevant. Try again next year. And the year after that. And 10 years after. Blackhawks simply chose to tank for McKenna and ship off anything that wasn't bolted down long term. Garrett Pouliot's still under an NHL contract? St. Louis, meanwhile, saw the writing on the wall and shipped off whatever they could. That's surprisingly good value. Braden Schenn and Justin Falk are going bye-bye. And it would have been a hell of a lot more if guys like Colton Parayko agreed to be traded too. Robert Thomas was a very hot commodity, but at their asking price? Yeah, no. We'll discuss him again in the offseason. Winnipeg will be discussed further there too. They didn't have much to sell, but whatever was got shipped off to Buffalo. Wait a second, how are the Jets only 5 points out of a playoff spot? With all of their chaos this year? What the hell? Unlike them, Nashville has finally realized that playoffs are futile and did the same. Minus the Buffalo part. Sending away bottom six pieces to destinations across the hockey landscape at inflated value. Despite rumors, their core's still intact. Calgary's previous overhaul had failed miserably, so they're simply choosing to tank for a greater tomorrow. Mackenzie Weegar and Nazem Kadri are free from hockey hell. Blake Coleman, Zach Whitecloud, and more will likely be next on the docket over the summer. It's best to simply ignore what's happening over in Vancouver. They're dancing to some ancient gods in the woods and throwing men in there for sacrifice. Next week, they'll be burning themselves alive as atonement.
With a broken stick there as Thompson's shot comes back to the side of the post. Johansson doesn't have it. Krebs took a stab at it. Now they're taking stabs at him. And Hagel again with punches with Krebs down on the ice. Here we go. Bedlam breaking out again behind